G'day, mate, and how the bloody hell are ya? This is In the Back of My Head podcast, episode 66. I knew that off the top of my head. Don't at me, bro. This is a little creative journal that I record every week or so to get some thoughts out from the back of my head into a hot mic, try and make sense of what's going on in my head. Get rid of some of the static, clear some of that static. And I tell you what, last few weeks have been a lot of static. I'm especially feeling that as of last Thursday when I tried to record this podcast. And so I skipped a week. Recorded 2 episodes. Or rather, took 2 takes an episode and got no further. And that really set me into a bit of a spiral. When you try and do a thing, doesn't work, and so you get very frustrated. And then in my frustration, I started fighting with my technology. I would hit record or forget to hit record. Some things weren't working. The editing process of a poem that I put out that day wasn't working very well. It took me a lot longer to do anything. Once again, sent me into a spiral. And so I thought, and now I'm recording on this on a very different day than I normally do, at a very different time of day than I normally do. I just felt, I'm trying to write. I'm sitting here trying to do stuff and I'm not getting anywhere with it. So I thought, fuck it, let me ramble on for a little minute about working when you feel like shit. Working as a creative, still trying to be a creative when you feel like shit. Since that's where I'm at the moment, I'm feeling better than I was last week, but it was a very physical thing, very physical, very visceral, very much not lost in my head because of any particular reason. It wasn't like, oh, I'm sad about a cat dying, or a friend just divulged great secrets that you told in confidence to the public and now you are shamed and stoned in the public square. Nay. Nothing like that, mate. Nothing crazy. No reason. No rhyme or reason. My favorite character in a show didn't die. Nay. I just felt shit. There's no batteries left. And I knew it at the time, which was a great moment of realization, a great moment of self-awareness, which I really appreciated for myself. I was very happy with myself that I was like, you know what? This is just low batteries, mate. This is nothing, don't worry about it. Sure, you might be on the verge of tears. Sure, you might think you're a piece of shit. Sure, you might think that your art's a waste of time, that you should, find something better to do. As a creative, what is the word I'm looking for? As a productive member of society, Instead, I was just like, this will pass, mate. This will pass. You feel a little bit, perhaps a tightness in the chest, a tightness of the skin. Man, I feel the tightness of the skin. It feels like I don't quite fit in here. I don't quite fit inside my little fleshy prison. I hope someone's relating to this. I hope someone's like, oh yeah, totally. When your skin don't fit, yeah, mate. I know all about it. When you're not sad for any reason, but your skin don't fit, and trying to push through is, I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I did have a realization on the second day. I was like, why is this happening? Why do I feel terrible? What is going on? It had that feeling of going to a large social situation and expelling all of your energy. I don't know too much about this, but from those I've spoken to that are on the spectrum will speak to this of expelling all of your social energy, and then it might take a week for you to come back. I think of that with just introverts in general, those who must recharge at home and expel outwardly when they're in the public situations. Could be applied to many different things, could be applied to many different types of personalities and types of people, types of chemical makeups. I don't know what it is, I don't know what it was, but I had this realization on the second day. I was like, what is going on? Why do I feel like this? Because it reminded me of when I released my album last year, and I spoke on that. And I spoke on post-release blues. I spoke on the idea of like kind of working yourself up to put out this big thing, and of course you're going to have expectations for yourself, and if you don't meet those, then you might spiral into a bit of a depression, which is a funny little thing when you put out something, when you achieve a thing that you set out to do, that everyone else is like, oh mate, congratulations, well done on doing the thing. And in the moment you're like, I know I should feel good about this, but I actually feel pretty rubbish right now. And it takes time, it takes work to get to the point when you can sit in that and go, no, I know what this is. This is just post-release blues, or is this just post-party blues? This is just energies are drained and now my skin don't fit. That's the medical term for it. Don't look it up. DM me if you want medical advice at any moment. Don't DM me. Don't come at me. But I think now in retrospect, I look back at the album release and think that maybe it wasn't actually, I mean, that's part of it, is the expectations on yourself. But also I think it is just the social environment. Think how many people experience that just going to Christmas if you've got a big family. I'm very fortunate. I have a very small family. Not many extended. And if they are extended, I keep them at arm's reach. I keep that extension as much as possible. Thank you so much. You stay over there, I'll stay over here. My immediates, nice and small little group of us. We go, g'day mate, how the bloody hell are you? And so Christmas time is sinking a couple of beers, having a bit of grub, talking a bit of shit, head on back. But those times when you're with a big family, when you've got a big family to deal with, then yeah, of course, you get lost in it and you expel a lot of energy. You're masking, you're walking on eggshells, you're checking everything that you say. And so when you get out of it, all right, that's going to take a week to recuperate that lost energy. And I think that could be more it when it comes to something like an album launch, as that is a situation where it's sort of like a family gathering. You've invited all your mates. G'day mate, how the bloody hell are you? Oh, g'day mate, how the bloody hell are you? Oh, g'day mate, how the bloody hell are you? Oh, so many people to say g'day mate, how the bloody hell are you too? At least 5, at least 10 maybe. Ooh, look at me, Mr. Popular with 5 to 10 friends. Lordy, lordy. I'm off my chops on friends. What a stupid, weird mood I'm in today. The social batteries were gone. And so I thought about this. I had the realization on the second day. Like, what has happened? Why am I like this? And like, maybe it's because I did a thing which was a high watermark, an achievement, a milestone. Ooh, one that you'll look back into the distance and go, wow, can't believe I climbed that summit. As I climb the next now, I'm sure there will always be the next summit, there will always be. Therefore, those little milestones are lovely to have, but it's annoying when you don't feel it in the moment. But I did radio training at Triple R. A chance for me to talk some shit into a live mic. That's terrifying. It's bloody terrifying. But what's more terrifying, and I'm freaking out about this, I am very excited by this, that I'm going to go and do a graveyard shift at Triple R. I'm going to be live on community radio at 4 in the fucking morning. God damn, they don't make coffee strong enough, mate. I'm excited to do the 4 a.m. rather than like a 2 a.m. because hopefully I can get to sleep and wake up at 3:30 and go for it. But I can guarantee I ain't gonna sleep for that. But I did this, and it was all very chill, super easy. But I think walking into that space and saying, g'day, 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 oh, g'day, g'day, how are you? To a lot of people that I don't know, in an environment I don't know, an environment that I'm like, oh, how do I act? How do I stand? How does my face normally sit? What do I say? Can I even speak English? Do I have a English accent? Do I have an Australian accent? What have I got? Do I have a Canadian accent? Do I have a Polish accent? I'm just listing off some family member that I could tap into, perhaps. Perhaps the Polish is inside of me. I think I've only got one generation in there anyway, so ain't much to work with. I only met my gran twice anyway. What am I fucking talking about? Didn't know how to act. It was so fine. It was so fine in the moment, but then especially like maybe in the last half hour and then coming out of it, going home. Oh, my little heart, like a rodent in talons, beating so fast. Oh my God, a little field mouse. I'm just a little field mouse. Every day that goes on, every as a small child, I understood. As a small child, I understood I'm just a little field mouse. But now as I go on, I'm like, come on. At what point do I turn into a mighty hawk? No, field mouse. Destined to be field mouse. My little rodent heart will give out at the age of 45. I know that. I've come to terms with that. I've come to terms with the rapid BPM that my heart is racing at. I'm trying to relax it, trying to chill it out, but I don't do anything to help it. And so yeah, I got to a level of anxiety. It was an excited anxiety. It's an excitement. It's a level of excitement. I hope it's my body preparing, because it's something that I care about. It's my body saying, hey, you might need this little extra adrenaline. I'm like, whoa, maybe not that much, mate. Maybe not quite that much. But nonetheless, there it was. And so then the next few days, I wonder if it was just a crash, an adrenaline crash, an anxiety crash. My goodness. Took me a moment to realize though. It took me a couple of days. The second day, late in the second day, I was like, you know what? You know what it probably is? It's probably that. It's probably that. But it doesn't change how much you're beating yourself up when you're feeling like that. When you're feeling, oh God, oh, my skin don't fit. My limbs poke out too far in all directions. How do I sit in a chair? My lower back's sore. My head's aching. I'm dehydrated. I'm always dehydrated. I gotta drink more water. Come on now. And then I'm trying to still do creative stuff. I tried to record this podcast. I got 19 minutes in and I was like, what the fuck am I talking about? Which is funny because on the days that I'm like just rambling on like a dickhead, much like today, because I'm in a heightened weird energy today, all up and down. God damn. Those are the ones that people are like, yeah, this is a good one. I like this one. This one's my favorite. I like the ones where you're just rambling on like a dickhead. I'm like, cool. That just means I'm anxious. Or unprepared. Those usually go hand in hand. But I got 19 minutes in, I was like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I tried to record again, couldn't get anywhere. And it was just rattling in the back of my head from then on, for those few days. Still kind of lingering, of just, mate, I ain't got it. I ain't got the energy, and I haven't got the ego hit. I heard Blind Boy on the Blind Boy podcast talk about, what's it called? About loss of executive function. Something experienced by those on the autism spectrum. And it's fascinating listening to that kind of stuff. Same with like being around people in the poetry community, because you just get a lot of people who are a little spicy. That regardless of like how your brain works, is it makes you think about how your brain works a lot more. And so terminology like that, hearing things like that, I'm like, that makes some sense. I expelled a lot of energy, and now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know how to breathe. But, okay, here's where I'm trying to get to though, eh? Here's where I'm trying to get to. Is that in that time, in this past week that I didn't have it, what I think is what I think is like, I was traveling at this, and I did. I had like 2 or 3 weeks of just fucking up here, which makes sense that you can have a bit of a crash, doesn't it? But, unless whenever you're in that mode, you're still like, oh, you piece of shit. But, my week of down, of nothing, is still kind of a week of pretty decent productivity. Which I don't know if it's good. So I am putting that at the front here, that I don't know if this is a good thing at all. That I continue to push through, that I continue to just work, even when I'm feeling like shit. Is it better to just, okay, let's have a little bit of a rest. Let's take the time to recharge? Or is wallowing in that self-pity going to just make it worse? You don't know. I mean, you can trial and error, but every single time is different. Depends on the trigger, depends on what's going on, depends on the weather. My God, is it windy? Is it sunny? Is it rainy? Is it a bit humid? Ooh, it was getting a bit hot as well. That was probably it. That's probably why my skin doesn't fit. It's because it's a bit hot. Look at me. I'm born for the English countryside. I'm born for overcast and drizzle. No doubt about that. That's where I belong. Even once we get up to 26, I'm like, oh boy, it's getting a bit much. It's getting a little bit much out here. Can we turn it down? 21, 22? Pretty good. Happy with that. I'll take an 18. I like an 18. I like a 16. Give me a 16. What's my favorite temperature? I think it might be, in the between 16 and 19 degrees. Oh, that's yum. That's delicious. If you're moving quickly, you could get away with a t-shirt. But otherwise, you can still throw on a hoodie. You can still throw on an over-shirt, and you can wear pants. That's my preferred temperature. A mate asked me today, "Do you think will I ever see you in shorts?" I said, "Mate, I'll have to buy some." I have to buy some new shorts for this summer. I tried on my old shorts and I couldn't get them on anymore. Did they shrink, or have I grown in places I didn't want to grow? That's the alcohol for you. A little bit of a belly going on. And so what kept the things going? What kept that productivity up? First of all is setting dates. It's setting dates for things. It's the simplest solution, and one that boggles my mind of how long it took me to figure out, but also how a lot of people really struggle with it. And I get it. And maybe if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. However, for me, when those times of low energy and your skin don't fit vibes, and you're like, oh, what am I gonna bloody do? But if you've already set a date on when you're doing the thing, it's a hell of a lot easier. And that goes for time blocking as well now. What I've been doing in the past few months is I'm setting dates. I'm always setting dates. When's a thing coming out, or what day am I working on a thing? When am I recording with the band? Yada, yada, yada. And now I've also started time blocking. And so in my week, I'll look at my thing, I look at my calendar, and my calendar is chock-a-block with colors. Ooh, what a bouquet of tasks to do. And I look at that and I go, well, I feel pretty shit, but it also says here that I should be working on the game that I said I'm working on. Okay, fine. I'd really like to crawl up into a little ball, but I said that I would do a thing, I'm going to do a thing. And so I sat down at my desk and I, did some doodles, did some sketches for the game, and I started working, and I found that I managed to get through it. I managed to actually find myself at the end of that little task with some bits and pieces. I animated a sheep. We needed a sheep and I animated it. I animated it running left and running right, running forwards, running backwards, and just standing still. I'm not much of an animator. It was deeply frustrating. Oh, deeply satisfying as well. Getting started was rough. If I hadn't had that in my calendar, ain't no goddamn chance. Things like that are really good, I think. Just as a creative, on the days where you really don't want to do anything, setting the times to just work on a thing, setting the task and saying, that's what you're doing, mate. That's what you're bloody doing. And you go, all right, fine. But also when you're doing that, thinking about things that you don't need to have a lot of emotional energy for. A little busy work. Little easy tasks, little boxes to tick. Tick some boxes, mate. Just tick some bloody boxes. Let's say if you're working on some music, perhaps when you're down in the dumps, then maybe it's not a great idea to try and start a new track. Maybe it's a good idea not to try and lay down those final takes. Those require a bit of I gotta be zen, I gotta be ready, I gotta be in the flow state. That's not fucking happening, I'll tell you right now. But what might be doable? Go take the breaths out of your last vocal take. Go mix the fucking bass into the track a little bit, Go just ride vocal volume. I don't know. Find some busy work. Find the busy work and get that done. Or do some brainstorming. I did a fair bit of that as well. I was like, I just have nothing to offer this world today. So, I will spend as much time as I can basically scrapbooking. Going on to Behance or Instagram, trying to avoid Instagram because it's too goddamn distracting. There's all the people that want to share their story, much as I do, but looking at their stories, I get consumed by it. Or there's a DM sitting there, no, I can't have that. I'm trying to tap the fuck out. I'm trying not to be contactable. I'm trying to be off in my own little world, shut myself in. And so I'll go into those platforms where I don't really have any connection. I'm just scrolling endlessly through the art and just going, oh, I like that, I like that, I like that. I'll cut and paste all that shit over here. That's a nice little easy task. It might have the off chance of inspiring you, getting you ready for the next thing. Maybe it'll get you out of that slump. Maybe it'll get you out of that slump. But I'm finding those little busy tasks on those days are deeply necessary when the crash comes. And the crash is coming. Right now, the crash is here. I feel like my manic energy today is absolutely not in line with what I'm talking about, what I'm saying. But nonetheless, it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing when you feel, there's almost a weird guilt as well. When you feel shit, and then you can do a thing, and you're like, but I wanted to be sad. I kind of wanted to identify as being sad today. I kind of wanted to really embrace it. I found it funny, I was like, when I was at home, I was like, oh God, this is shit. I just don't feel it. I don't feel like being present in the world at the moment. And then I went out and saw some shit. I hung out with some people, had a couple of beers, and I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. This is real good. I guess because it depends on the situation. In that particular case, I was like, I don't need to expel a lot of energy in here. I can just kind of hang out, talk some shit, run our mouths. Hell yeah. That was a good time. And then back home, it feels weird. And then it's funny to talk to those people in that situation, go, hey, I'm not really feeling particularly great. And they're like, oh, you seem good. You're like, yeah, well, I guess that comes from quite a lot of self-awareness about admitting to yourself, this is just a little physical slump. This is just something's off in my head, and it's going to correct itself. So you don't get into any spirals. You're just like, yep, cool, I'm riding this wave. At this point, because of the self-awareness, now more than anything, it's actually just a frustration. It's just an attempting to do tasks, and it's like your fingers are not connected to your head. So everything is like, you reach for your coffee cup and suddenly you've spilt it all over the desk. That's not at all what happened, but it feels like that, you know what I mean? It's that everything takes twice as long as it should, and you're like, ugh. The other part of this that I think enables me to just fucking ride through that is then I've written here, the flywheel is the only thing keeping me going. The engine's cut. The engine's gone. No engine. You drowned it, mate. You flooded it. And it's cut out. That feels actually quite apt. That feels quite apt. I was on a massive high. I was running 3 weeks of just constant stuff going on, and I felt real good. Maybe I bloody put too much fuel in the thing. I flooded the engine, mate, and it cut out, but the flywheel's going. I don't know what kind of car this is that has a big old flywheel. Let's consider it a tractor. And the flywheel's still running. And I'm just tapping into that energy. Oh God, let's keep this momentum running until the engine kicks back on. I think there's really something to be said, and I've talked about it plenty in other episodes, about just keeping the momentum up. And I think little busy tasks like that are really good for that kind of shit, of just building up your creative momentum. Because it's the hardest thing to kick back into gear, to get the engine started again from a cold start. This is actually a half decent analogy. It's hard to come back from a cold start. It's hard to come back from a cold start. So keep the engine running. Find little creative things you can do while you're in that slump. Just keep that flywheel running for as long as possible, and then when it's time, the engine will tick over and you'll be on your merry way. Does that make sense? Keep up that momentum, mate. Because there will be those crashes. Regardless of how your brain chemistry works or what have you, there'll be the good days and the bad days. Everyone's got a little bit everyone's a little bit, And some days you're just not having it. Some days you ain't got it. It pays a lot to try and give yourself that space, read into it, to be like, I think I know what that is. That's just a physical anxiety. That's all right. That'll pass. I'm not anxious about anything in particular. It's just I ran my heart a little hot. Let it cool down. We'll get back to it tomorrow. Or next week. Or it could be a month. Could be years. Who knows? Ideally not years. Ideally just a week. It's slowly coming back online now. But I sat down today to do some writing and I really couldn't find anything. In my noggin. But nonetheless. It's funny, these little episodes where it's just like, hey, here's my brain, which is the whole series. It's the whole podcast. It's just, hey, here's my brain. What do you think? But some shit that I've said today about, how I'm trying to manage my head in the last week or so will help you manage your head in the next week or so. Who's to say? I do hope so. Keep at it. Keep up the momentum. Keep the flywheel going. And give yourself plenty of leeway when you don't feel like doing anything. When you feel like shit. When one chemical in your brain's a little bit either too much or too little. Who knows? I'm speaking very broadly. There's many reasons why this could be going on for everyone. I'm speaking about my own head. You might relate to it. That's the episode, mate. This is In the Back of My Head podcast, episode 66. If you enjoy it, leave me a comment, mate. Leave me a like. Shoot me some cash on Patreon if you feel like it. My goodness, I am broke and I could use a couple of bucks. Nah, let's go find out. I gotta go find some work. I gotta go find some fucking cash. I'm running on empty. I'll see you next week. We'll see how my brain's feeling. If I can be fucked talking into a hot mic. Catch you next time, mate. Mwah.